It was a typical afternoon at the local grocery store. The kind of place that always seemed alive with movement and chatter. The aisles bustled with shoppers, parents with their kids, elderly couples taking their time, and busy professionals rushing to grab last-minute items. The faint hum of the store's air conditioning, mixed with the occasional beep of checkout scanners and the rustling of bags being packed. Behind one of the registers stood Ella, a young woman with an easy smile and a warm presence that customers always appreciated. Her brown apron was neatly tied, and her name tag, slightly worn from use, caught the light every time she turned to help someone. Despite the constant flow of customers and the long hours, Ella never lost her cheerful demeanor. Ella had a knack for making everyone feel seen, whether it was a kind word to an elderly customer or a playful comment that made a child laugh. She worked hard, staying focused even when the lines grew long and the day felt endless. For Ella, this wasn't just a job. It was her way of making the world a little brighter, one smile at a time. But that day, something was about to test Ella's patience in a way she hadn't experienced before. The air felt a little heavier, as if it knew trouble was walking through the door. The automatic doors slid open with a whoosh, and in walked Karen. She was dressed impeccably, in a tailored blazer and heels that clicked sharply against the store's tiled floor. Her perfectly styled hair and oversized sunglasses, perched on her head, gave her an air of importance, as if she were someone who expected the world to move just a little faster for her. Karen's eyes scanned the checkout lanes, narrowing as she spotted Ella's. With a huff, she pushed her cart toward it, bypassing the self-checkout and other open registers. The sound of her cart rattling against the floor seemed louder than usual, a harbinger of the storm that was about to roll in. Ella, as always, greeted her with a smile. "Good afternoon. Did you find everything okay today?" she asked, her voice calm and pleasant. Karen didn't bother to respond directly. Instead, she sighed loudly, pulling a few items from her cart and dropping them onto the belt with exaggerated movements. "You're already too slow," she muttered, just loud enough for Ella to hear. Ella hesitated for a moment but kept her composure. She continued scanning the items, making sure to handle each one carefully. "Can you move any slower?" Karen snapped, tapping her fingers on the edge of the counter. "Honestly, I don't know how they let people like you work here. Do you even know what you're doing?" The atmosphere in the lane grew tense. Customers behind Karen exchanged glances, but no one said a word. Ella's hands trembled slightly as she continued working, her polite smile faltering for the first time. Karen leaned closer, her tone dripping with sarcasm. "I'm not here to spend my entire day waiting on someone who clearly doesn't care about doing their job right." Ella swallowed hard, feeling the sting of Karen's words. She wanted to respond, but professionalism kept her silent. Little did Karen know, her cruel remarks weren't going unnoticed. Karen's complaints became sharper with every item Ella scanned. "Are you seriously putting my bread in the same bag as the canned goods? Who does that?" she snapped, snatching the bag away and glaring at Ella. "Do I need to bag it myself, or can you at least try to use common sense?" Ella quickly apologized, her voice steady despite the lump forming in her throat. She carefully rearranged the bag, trying to meet Karen's impossible standards. But Karen wasn't done. "What's this?" she said, pointing to the register screen. "That price isn't right. I saw a sign that said it was on sale. Are you overcharging me on purpose, or are you just bad at your job?" Her voice grew louder, drawing the attention of other customers in line. Ella paused, her fingers hovering over the buttons as she checked the item in question. "I'll verify that for you, ma'am," she said quietly, scanning the sale list on her screen. Karen rolled her eyes dramatically. "This is ridiculous. I don't have time for your incompetence," she barked, her words cutting through the steady hum of the store. The other shoppers began murmuring among themselves. Some looked at Karen with disapproval, while others glanced at Ella, silently willing her to hold on. But no one stepped forward to say anything, leaving Ella alone to face the growing storm. Ella kept her head down, focusing on her work even as her hands started to tremble. The bag slipped from her fingers once or twice, but she quickly recovered, her smile returning faintly, though it didn't reach her eyes. Inside, she felt the pressure mounting. The sting of Karen's words was sharp, and the weight of being under constant scrutiny made her chest tighten. But Ella didn't let it show. She kept scanning, bagging, and apologizing when Karen's criticisms cut deeper. The narrator, watching the scene unfold, couldn't help but admire Ella's strength. It was clear she was fighting back tears, holding on to her professionalism like it was a lifeline. Despite the hostility directed at her, Ella remained calm, determined not to let Karen's words break her. Little did she know, her patience was about to be rewarded. Just as Karen's voice reached a sharp crescendo, a steady, measured voice cut through the tension. "Is there a problem here?" Karen turned sharply to find Mr. Harris, the store manager, standing a few feet away. His presence was calm yet commanding, his tall frame and professional demeanor instantly shifting the energy in the checkout lane. Karen hesitated for a moment, clearly not expecting to be confronted, but she quickly regained her composure, adjusting her blazer and pointing at Ella. "Yes, there's a problem. Your employee here is completely incompetent. She's slow, careless, and has no idea how to handle customers properly. Honestly, I'm shocked this store allows this kind of service." Ella froze, her cheeks flushing with embarrassment as Karen's words echoed through the store. Mr. Harris remained calm, his expression neutral as he nodded slightly. "I see," he said. "Thank you for bringing this to my attention. Let me ask Ella about this." Karen's smugness faltered just a little as Mr. Harris turned to Ella, his tone softening. "Ella, are you okay?" he asked. Ella nodded quickly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yes, sir. I've been doing my best to help." Mr. Harris looked back at Karen, his voice now firm but polite. "Ma'am, I've worked with Ella for a long time. She's one of our most dedicated and hardworking employees. Her kindness and professionalism are qualities we deeply value." Karen's confident expression began to crack, her eyes darting nervously as onlookers watched the exchange. "Well, I'm just saying she could try harder," Karen stammered, her tone noticeably less aggressive. "I understand," Mr. Harris said evenly. "But respect is a two-way street. Our staff works hard to ensure every customer has a positive experience. If there's ever an issue, we ask that it be addressed with kindness, not hostility." Karen's cheeks flushed as she realized the tide was turning against her. The disapproving murmurs of the other customers grew louder, and she looked down, avoiding their eyes. Mr. Harris glanced at Ella, giving her a reassuring nod, before turning back to Karen. "If there's nothing else, I'd appreciate it if we could all move forward respectfully," he said, his tone leaving no room for argument. Mr. Harris straightened his posture, his calm demeanor unwavering as he addressed Karen one last time. "Ma'am, while we value all of our customers, we have a zero-tolerance policy for disrespect toward our staff. If you cannot treat Ella and everyone here with the courtesy they deserve, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the store." Karen's mouth fell open in shock. For a moment, it seemed she couldn't process what had just been said. Her confident air of entitlement melted into something much smaller, nervous and uncertain. I didn't mean anything by it," Karen stammered, her voice faltering. "I was just frustrated, that's all. I didn't mean to cause a scene." She glanced around, suddenly very aware of the growing crowd of onlookers. But the damage was already done. The other customers who had been silently watching broke into quiet cheers and applause. A few even called out words of encouragement. "Good on you, manager, and treat people with respect." Karen's face flushed crimson. She muttered a quick, almost inaudible apology, grabbing her half-packed groceries and shoving them back into her cart. With her head down, she hurried out of the store, the clicking of her heels no longer sharp but hurried and uneven. As the doors slid shut behind her, the tension in the air lifted like a heavy fog. Mr. Harris turned to Ella, his expression softening. "Are you okay, Ella?" he asked gently. Ella, who had been holding her breath, finally exhaled. A genuine smile spread across her face as she nodded. "Thank you, Mr. Harris," she said, her voice steady but full of emotion. "You don't need to thank me," he replied. "You deserve to be treated with respect, always." The onlookers clapped again, this time for Ella and Mr. Harris. Ella glanced at the line of customers, her smile growing wider as a few people gave her kind words of encouragement. In that moment, the weight of Karen's harsh words seemed to dissolve. Ella stood a little taller, grateful not just for Mr. Harris's support, but for the reminder that kindness and respect still mattered. Karen hurried out of the store, her face flushed with embarrassment. The confident stride she had walked in with was replaced by a hurried shuffle, her head down as if she could hide from the eyes of those watching. The automatic doors closed behind her, and just like that, the storm had passed. Ella let out a shaky breath, her shoulders relaxing for the first time in what felt like hours. She looked up at Mr. Harris, her eyes glistening with gratitude. "Thank you, Mr. Harris," she said softly. "I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to make things worse." Mr. Harris gave her a kind smile. "Ella, you handled yourself with grace, even when it wasn't easy. I'm proud of you," he said. "And remember, you're an important part of this team. Don't ever let anyone make you feel otherwise." Ella smiled, her face lighting up with relief and a renewed sense of confidence. "That means a lot." "Thank you," she said sincerely. As Mr. Harris stepped away to check on the rest of the store, the narrator reflected on the events that had just unfolded. In a world where so many choose to look away, Mr. Harris's decision to step in and stand up for Ella was a reminder of how powerful kindness and courage could be. It wasn't just about confronting Karen, it was about showing Ella, and everyone watching, that respect and decency should always come first. The narrator closed the story with a simple truth. Sometimes, it takes just one person to make a stand, to remind us all that no one deserves to be treated poorly. And sometimes it takes just one kind word to make someone feel valued. So choose kindness. It's always worth it. The story of Ella and Karen isn't just about a bad day at the grocery store. It's a reflection of something deeper. The way we treat each other in everyday life. Respect isn't a luxury or a favor. It's a basic human right. One we owe to everyone we meet, no matter the situation. Karen's actions showed how hurtful words and attitudes can leave a lasting mark. But Mr. Harris's courage to step in, to stand up for Ella in a moment when she needed it most, showed the power of compassion and leadership. It reminded everyone watching that doing the right thing, even when it's uncomfortable, can change someone's day, or even their life. Ella's strength, too, was remarkable. Her grace under pressure, and her decision to stay professional despite the unfairness of the moment, were a testament to her character. The final note is simple yet profound. You never know what someone is going through, whether they're a hard-working clerk trying their best or a stranger passing by. Your words and actions can lift someone up or tear them down. So when in doubt, choose kindness. The world could always use more of it. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story and believe in spreading kindness and positivity, we'd love your support. Hit that subscribe button to join our growing community and never miss a story that inspires and uplifts. Give this video a like if it touched your heart. It really helps us reach more people. Share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear your reactions, opinions, or even similar experiences you've had. And don't forget to share this video with friends and family. Let's spread the message of respect and kindness together. Your support means the world to us, and it keeps us motivated to create more stories just for you. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next one.